What is up, guys and gals? Welcome back to another Loose Ventures video. Today, I want to talk about AMD. This is a stock that has been on my watch list forever, and I didn't realize it was trading below 65 until I looked at it earlier today. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do a quick video, go over the valuation, go over financials, and why AMD might be a good pick in the markets today, or why it might be a good pick when the price is right. So that said, let's get right into it. Okay, so as you may have seen in my other videos, if you haven't checked them out, take a look at the value investing video, the screening, sources, watch list videos, intro, the disclaimer. Check them all out. Why not? But as some of you already know, I like to look at estimates pretty much first and foremost. I want to see that there's still revenue growth, that there's good EBITDA, and that there's good free cash flow. So revenue growth, we got 13.4% for next year. I always want to look a little bit out, right? 3 to 24 month time frame for me. 2022, they're expecting 59% revenue growth. So they almost have that locked in, basically. So we should be pretty close to that growth. So AMD is obviously still in high growth mode. It is coming down a lot from these past 3 years, but that's still good. That's still damn good growth. So EBITDA is looking great, almost $10 billion. Free cash flow $6.3 billion, and that'll be up about 45% from this year. So really solid. Looks like they're controlling the margins. Good job, Lisa Su, CEO of the freaking decade, right? All right. So let's take a look at valuation real quick. Let's see what they've been trading at. I'm going to look at the past 5 years because that's all Ticker will give me. Ticker.com, by the way. That's one of the sources I've mentioned in other videos. So yeah, five years pretty good. We did have a tremendous bull run. But yeah, we're just going to take a glance here. Currently, you're trading at about 11.4 times enterprise value to EBITDA and a 5.4 times free cash flow yield. This is based off of market cap rather than enterprise value, which I like enterprise value instead, but we'll use this as a good proxy. So we're looking at the low end of enterprise value to EBITDA, very much so, even if you want to count out these like 42 times numbers, they're outliers, right? Markets aren't going to trade like that again for a long time, right? And then free cash flow yield is way higher than it's been. So I see a low 3.9%. That's when Lisa Su was just getting going, right? She just started working her magic then, right? So yeah, in terms of the trading range, past 5 years, we're looking pretty good. So far, I'm liking the price. I'm liking what the stock price is doing. I mean, it's down, right? But hey, that's maybe we're getting close to a buy, right? Okay, so financials. Let's look at the balance sheet. I always want to look at current assets, $13.5 billion versus current liabilities, $5.5 billion. Big check mark, right? Even if you subtract out that cash that they're sitting on, $6 billion. So looking good there. They did issue some shares for an acquisition. I believe it was about $800 million acquisition. I don't like to see this, but if it's good for growth and cool, as long as you don't do it all the time, right? Just don't keep issuing shares for acquisitions, especially if you have the cash and you don't have any debt. $3.2 billion debt, by the way. That compares to forward EBITDA of, what do we say? $9.9 billion, so almost $10 billion. Solid. Debt to EBITDA, forward debt to EBITDA of about 0.3 times. That's fantastic. Way to go, Lisa. Okay, so back to the balance sheet. Anything else we want to check? Assets, $67.5 billion versus liability of $12.3 billion. Okay, so I don't think we got anything to be concerned about here on the balance sheet. Just high level. We want to check their liquidity. We want to check their debt. Just from a high level, want to make sure they're not issuing a ton of shares. They are, but let's assume Lisa Su's done issuing all these freaking shares, right? All right, let's check stock-based comp, $380 million, $702 million over the past year and a half versus $16.4 billion in revenue, $21.6 billion in revenue for the last 12 months. That's less than 5%, which is my personal check mark. So we'll say it's okay. Looks like a lot, but it's okay. Also, not too big compared to cash from operations. So we do have positive free cash flow. And let's see, what else we got here? We have some of that issuance of common stock. We got big stock repurchases. Let's check the quarters, see how many they repurchased, because I know, you got to net that from the share issuance, right? Okay, so good amount of shares issued over the past several quarters, and then almost $3 billion in share repurchases the past 2 quarters. Okay, so at least it means business. Okay, so I hope she's done issuing shares for acquisitions. They have plenty of cash. They want to make another one. Let's say we're in a bad recession, asset prices fall. AMD has this freaking big old treasure chest of cash that they can just employ and snatch up some low-priced, manufacturing facilities or maybe even some smaller semiconductor companies, right? So we'll see what she does there. Hopefully she's done issuing shares. It kind of seems like it since she's buying back shares. I don't think it'd make much sense to go back to issuing shares after you just bought back a whole bunch. So let's assume that they're done issuing shares for now, right? All right, so everything looks good so far. Balance sheet, statement of cash flow looks all right, just high level, right? They have good growth, good EBITDA. That's been growing, as you can see down here. Debt level is nice and low. So let's look at the watch list here. I already have all those projections put in, and I put in Nvidia's projections as well. So based on those projections, key multiples I want to look at. Enterprise value, EBITDA 9.6 times. That's below 10, which seems pretty good for a high-growth company. That's been much higher in the past. Compared to Nvidia, 28.7, almost 29 times. Debt to EBITDA is very important, 0.3 times. 1.2 times for Nvidia. No worries for either of these companies. We just know that AMD has a hell of a lot more liquidity than Nvidia does, right? Free cash flow yield, my favorite metric, 6.7%. Very nice, above my 5% hurdle. Nvidia, not so much. Okay, so let's see what happens if I sensitize these, my little sensitivity multiplier, or sensitivity factor, as I like to call it. Let's knock everything by 20%. Still meets my free cash flow yield hurdle. Not by much, though. Spoiler alert. Here are my price targets, right? Multiples-based price targets. Nvidia's not even close. AMD, it's a bit of a gap, but that's because I'm sensitizing everything. I'm being very conservative here. So everything's looking okay for AMD. It's trading at the low end of its valuation. The business is looking solid, too. Lisa Su, I think she's doing a great job. I have a 25% margin of safety on AMD and Nvidia. You got to have you got to be conservative, right? You got to have some sort of risk metric. You got to account for risk, especially in a cyclical industry like semiconductor chip stocks. Notice I have them marked as cyclicality or cyclical specifically. So here's my little return, projected return. AMD's trading right at that dollar amount with a 25% margin of safety. So the case could be made it's a buy, right? Maybe I want to wait. Nvidia, not even close. So far, valuation financials, Nvidia looks fine in terms of financials. They are issuing a lot of stock-based comp. I'll tell you right now, it's over that 5% that I want to see, 5% of revenue, mind you. AMD checks that box in addition to all the other boxes so far, right? So valuation isn't looking too bad. I'm concerned about semiconductors overall, though. So let's see. I got a little window pulled up here. Let's say I don't want to buy at this price. With a cut in projections, a 20% cut, we're looking at a price of $51.50 per my watch list. So you could strike 50 puts. I might actually do that come market open tomorrow. Market just closed a few minutes ago. So, they do have earnings October 25th, I believe. So Lisa Su, she's pretty transparent, pretty good about telling the truth about the industry, about our company. So if there's one thing you rely on, it's that Lisa Su's going to tell you the truth, whether everything's looking great, lots of sunshine ahead, or dark and stormy clouds, right? So either way, what are the odds that AMD drops down to 50? I don't know, right? So, I always want to be conservative. I encourage you to be conservative as well. So while I think the price is good now, I'm worried about the semiconductor chip industry. I'm worried about supply and demand normalizing and prices having to be cut across the board. I think AMD's in a really good spot overall. Recent news, they're cutting prices. They're staying highly competitive. They're going to need to do that in order to remain competitive with Nvidia. And I think they're making some good moves. So, yeah, there's some other sites that I looked up, just kind of like the quality of AMD's products, their graphics cards versus Nvidia, and as well as their CPUs versus Intel. So I'll drop links for this website. This is just something I looked at real quick, and you can kind of check it for yourselves. But overall, they're looking pretty nice in terms of quality and price point. Good bang for your buck. That's something AMD's always, I think they've been known for years now. It's kind of how they capture the hearts and minds of gamers, right? So yeah, one last thing I want to point out is there's a very high correlation between AMD and Nvidia. This is one of the sources, one of the many sources I've included in my other videos, which you should go watch. And 0.92 correlation coefficient. They're almost the same stock, right? They're almost the same stock price. So something to consider when you're investing in AMD. In a way, you're investing in Nvidia if you look at it from a stock price perspective, right? So maybe there's a good way to hedge. Maybe you buy some out of the money Nvidia puts, right? If you're getting into AMD, that might be a good justification for just jumping in right now, right? So I like to be conservative. I might sell those puts at strike 50. I could always hedge with Nvidia puts, and maybe I go closer to at the money, right? And I don't care about earnings. In Lisa Sue, I trust, right? But I'm always going to want to hedge. I encourage you guys to hedge as well, or just pick a damn good price, right? Don't get FOMO. So yeah, those are all the things I wanted to cover. Pretty high level, right? And that's kind of how I wanted to keep it. You can go to ROIC.ai, by the way, to check long-term operating margins, which is another thing I like to do. This is going to confirm that there's high cyclicality in the semiconductor industry. I'll zoom in a bit here. So you can see that here. You see all these negative percentages, low single digits, suddenly 22%. So another thing you're going to want to check looking at these stocks. So yeah, that's why that fat 25% margin of safety is in place for me, right? So yeah, check out my other videos if you want to know the specifics of how I conduct valuation, why I use certain multiples, and some other things I consider. So overall, AMD, they look pretty good. I like the stock. I like Lisa Sue in more of the ways than one, right? Their profitability is strong. They're highly competitive. Nvidia is starting to slip, or they've been kind of slipping, I think. And AMD is set to capture some market share. So even if the supply and demand of the semiconductor chip industry normalizes, AMD might be doing all right. And if not, you can always be conservative, sell some puts, hedge with Nvidia, right? So that's my take on AMD. I encourage you to do some research. Check out those sites. I'll put them in the description below. But yeah, if I missed anything, if you have a better strategy, if you like Nvidia more, let me know. Tell me let me know what your comments are. Give me your questions. I'll answer them as quick as I can. So yeah, just let me know down below. So that's it for today's video. For next time, I'll update you on the stocks that I mentioned last week. So yeah, check out that video as well. I found some potential deep value plays, and I'll give you some updates then for the next video. So yeah, until then, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, see you guys next time. Cheers.